I have found every single hidden Easter egg and detail that you need to know before watching Fantastic Four First Steps. Starting with February's teaser trailer, the first real time we get to feast our eyes on our favorite four. And it opens with a view that some of you may find familiar. Well, you'd have to have some pretty keen eyes to pick it out. What you've just seen is actually an alternate universe version of Manhattan's skyline brought to you by the Baxter Building. If you look closely, some things are the same, namely that big boy right over there. That is this universe's version of the Chrysler Building, albeit in a retro-futuristic skin, which I should mention everything has. We all know that Marvel likes capturing that 60s aesthetic thanks to WandaVision, so I guess they figure if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is more than purely looks though, because the movie is set in the 60s. No, I'm not a mind reader or anything like that. Basically, around a year ago, the first art for the film dropped, and in it, Ben is reading a 1963 Life magazine with Lyndon B. Johnson on the cover. Okay, so maybe he's just a big Johnson fan. Wait, hold on a sec. What I mean by that is he just really likes the 36th President of the United States. The time period is also a better reflection of their comic book heyday. Plus, then you've got the whole alternate dimension thing. So we know that Fantastic Four First Steps isn't taking place in the Marvel 616 universe, mainly to give the guys a break from the weight of recent canon. But also because, well, I think they're gonna tear this place down as soon as they build it up. It's getting a little ahead of ourselves though, but it's something for you to think about. Back to the teaser now, and we see Reed and Sue giving maybe the world's most awkward tour. There actually is a pretty good reason that they're being so wooden. Basically, back in the day, the Fantastic Four were one of Marvel's first superheroes to put themselves in the public eye. So yeah, I mean, this is like a TV/news interview about the day-to-day life of a superhero. It's not easy being so famous so quickly, especially when you realize the team doesn't really want the fame. Them going public was more out of solidarity towards Ben because it's a lot harder to mask his powers than anybody else on the team. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the theme of fame and the weight of it to be a decent part of the film's messaging, especially when you're as stiff as Reed was there, which is kind of ironic, isn't it? Since he's usually so flexible. The next thing in the teaser is such a great Easter egg. It's only small, but you know, the Marvel Studios logo seen right here? It's actually a nod to the classic Cinerama Dome in California, which also opened in 1963. It's sad because the company closed down in 2020 thanks to COVID. But there's rumors flying around that the Cinerama Dome might be making a return in the second quarter of 2025. I wonder what else is coming in the second quarter of 2025. Coincidence? I think not. Back to the trailer though. Next we get a glimpse of Ben Grimm and a really special robot. You have got to love Herby. Or, to give him his full name, Humanoid Experimental Robot B-Type Integrated Electronics. I think I'm gonna stick to Herby. The little guy has become a fan favorite ever since his debut in the Fantastic Four's 1978 animated show. He's still got the same build too, obviously in a more retro-futuristic skin. See, well, he looks like he's been on Ozempic, but his eyes and face are pretty much the same, big and bold with an expressive long mouth. Herby was created to actually replace Johnny Storm because the Human Torch was contracted to Universal, and due to the show being made by a separate studio, they didn't have the rights. The teaser also gives us a chance to hear Herby talk.
Yeah, I'll be the judge of that.
I don't know if it's just me, but I think he says pretty good, and I can already tell he's going to be one of my favorite things from the movie, seriously. I should also mention that, canonically, he was made by Reed and Czar to help with the search for Galactus. I'd hold on to that detail if I were you. I think this is what the bigwigs call foreshadowing. It's time to give Big Ben Grimm some attention now. The first thing I noticed anyway was Ben's design, a lot more boldly cartoonish than the Fantastic Four films of yesteryear. It seems production design has gone for a look a lot similar to what Alex Ross was going for in his more recent comics. I know it's got a lot of hate for like the small eyes and stuff, but I think the design rocks. It's only natural to get distracted by Ben's design, but we've got to talk about the jumpsuit that he's wearing too. They're going for a mesh between the suits in the John Byrne and Lee and Kirby eras of the Fantastic Four, and I think this works really well. It starts to get juicy in the next scene of the teaser when we see Reed at his giant curved chalkboard. It's a real blink and you'll miss it moment, but see, right at the back of the shot on the chalkboard, there's two diagrams there. After some heavy research, the top diagram is basically a wormhole with the words "another universe" drawn next to it. Wormholes aren't portals to other universes, but in theory, you know what are? Penrose diagrams. And the diagram under the wormhole is a Penrose. You can kind of see at the bottom there, it's labeled white hole, and at the top, black hole. The idea is that with those two fixed points, you can bend and warp spacetime, creating a path through to another universe. So this is where fans have had a field day. I said earlier that I think this film is going to destroy the current universe because I think we'll see the Fantastic Four travel to the mainline 616 universe at some point. So I'll cover this some more a little later in the video, especially when we get to the second trailer. The next slice of action we see in the trailer is Reed talking to Sue about the first time that they went up to space. This tells us that unlike the other films on the team, this one won't be showing how they got their powers. It won't be an origin film. I know we kinda knew that anyway, but I think it's important to mention this for the next scene of the trailer. Now, I said at the start that I thought this movie would be about them battling fame, but also it'll probably be them getting to grips with their powers too. As you would expect, Ben has the worst of it. From this scene, we can see a lit jack-o'-lantern in the corner of a doorway. Unless there's a weirdo living there, you would assume that it's Halloween. And if it is, it makes sense. Ben probably feels like this is the only time he can walk around as himself in public. If people look at him, they're probably just thinking, hey, that guy's got a pretty cool thing costume. To compound that, we see a clip of Ben before he got his powers, where he calls himself the best-looking pilot before the screen cuts out, revealing his rocky form. His eyes might be small, but for me, they carry a lot of sadness. And weirdly, despite his look, really makes him human. Also, just as a quick Easter egg, we can see on the side of the TV that Ben was watching Kaplan's Sale Special, which is a nod to Jeff Kaplan, one of the film's writers. If you thought the emotion surrounding Ben was over, Sue hits us with this gut punch.
Ben has always been a rock.
The same thing that made him such a great friend has now become the thing that haunts him. Damn. Sue's speech then takes us to this shot. How cool does Sue's light bending look? But more importantly, in the background, you can kinda see some type of beam or support pillar cracked and beginning to fall. We know from the concept art that this universe of Manhattan has a train or some sort of monorail going through it. So I wonder if at some point there's going to be damage done to the rail and the team has to band together to save an oncoming train full of passengers or something. We also know that Sue isn't working alone here because even further in the background is the fantastic car. Pretty nice to see this looking so sleek. It's been part of the gang ever since their debut, but did you know that it can actually fly? We don't see that here, but I wonder if we'll see it zooming through the Manhattan skyline this July. Oncoming trains are nothing compared to the meteors we see raining down to Earth a little later in the trailer. Apart from the fact that it looks crazy good, these meteors are actually really important. Back in the comic book days, especially the ones that Galactus appeared in, atmospheric disturbances to Earth usually are a signal of his arrival. But in the Galactus trilogy of comic books, they're caused by something else. That's another thing I'd advise you think about, especially as we're nearly at the second trailer. Daha! We've got some more pumpkins to talk about. From the way things are being framed up to this point, and with how Ben is dressed, I think that this Halloween takes place a whole year later. So from when we see him outside looking at the TV to this frame, I think a bunch of time might have passed. Which means it is finally time that we talk about the elephant in the room. I've put this off because it's confirmed in the next trailer, but all this time, Sue has been pregnant. They edited it out in this trailer, but you can 100% see it in the way that she walks in the beginning. That is the walk of a woman with a belly bump. As well as the progression with their superhero careers, having an in-movie timeline of a year gives enough time for us to meet the baby. Which, as a quick side note, is partly why the movie is called The Fantastic Four: The First Steps. See? The director, Matt Shakman, tried to convince fans the title was just about the space race, but when they saw Sue's walk in this teaser, they figured things out pretty quickly. If you didn't already know, and I'd be surprised if you didn't, the father of the baby is Reed, and he and Sue do have kids in the comic books. They have two, Franklin and Valeria. And because Franklin is canonically the older of the pair, I'd assume it'll be him that we're meeting. Which is a pretty big deal because Franklin is an Omega-level mutant with reality-warping powers. So vast that he can create and destroy universes, manipulate time and space, and even resurrect the dead. So pretty powerful for a baby. It also makes sense that this is the reason why Galactus is targeting Earth. Actually, before we talk about him, let's see his appearance in the trailer. No, that wasn't a toy model of the Statue of Liberty. Galactus is a big boy. He can get bigger too. So big, he can fit planets in the palm of his hands. To be fair, he's known as the Devourer of Worlds and became the Cosmic Caretaker after gestating inside of a cosmic egg that granted him godlike powers. So, if anything, that's the least weird thing. I also find it pretty cool that they've gone totally comic book accurate with Galactus here. Even if we only see his back for a few seconds, you can see those crooked pieces of his helmet and the really nice kind of weathered look of a being that's been alive for epochs. But anyway, back to Franklin. It makes sense that Galactus would target Earth as he probably wants to consume a power as formidable as Franklin's, especially before he gets old enough to wield his powers. We don't know for sure that that's why he's on Earth, but that's my headcanon. For now, anyway. Another kind of interesting introduction happens before Galactus' entrance. We get a shot of the actor John Malkovich. Now, we don't know who he's supposed to be playing, but I think the best guess is likely the Red Ghost. It's another thorn in the side of the Four, a Soviet supervillain who's obsessed with beating the Americans to the moon. Which, in fairness, does link back to what Matt Shackman said about the space race. So maybe we're gonna get a little early action surrounding that. Like, maybe the Red Ghost is the starting villain, but the team defeats him, and then wham, Galactus shows up. To finish, the trailer ends with a shot of the team standing on what looks like a soundstage, which has to be in reference to the Beatles' famous appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. Well, it's kind of funny that I said that, because the start of the second trailer pretty much confirms that it's The Ed Sullivan Show. Excuse me, The Ted Gilbert Show. Pretty cool homage, though, right? I mean, if you look closely to the left of the screen when Ted's talking to the audience, you can see a paper prompter. Might seem really primitive, but that's actually how things used to be done back in the day. Hosts were prompted with parchment paper rather than the electronic teleprompters that we have today. You know, if I was to guess, I'd say that The Ted Gilbert Show is most likely where the movie begins, and that documentary package we saw Reed and Sue filming in the teaser trailer will probably have been made for the show.
We all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head off into space.
I just wanted you to hear that whole first portion of Ted's monologue to the audience because, again, I think this leads on from what I said earlier. This movie certainly is not an origin story. He even says we all know the story, telling the audience that you've seen this part before. 4 astronauts going to space and coming back as heroes. I don't know about you guys, but I find that a really sleek and kind of clever way to set things up. It's self-aware and puts a line in the sand that this won't be like the other entries to the franchise. Isn't it good to see Ben a little happier after the last trailer? Clearly a little bit more comfortable in his own skin and even edging into his modest show-off personality that he had before the trip to space. If you look here also, you can just about make out the sign for Yansy Street, which is the street that Ben grew up on. Famously, when he was younger, he was part of a really nasty crew called the Yansy Street Gang. But he turned his back on his life of crime to pursue a master's degree in mechanical engineering, aviation, and chemistry, which ultimately led him to meet Reed, Sue, and Johnny. In the comics, the Yancey Street Gang are often seen pranking him after he leaves, and especially after he gets his powers. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe make a little cameo or get a mention at some point in the film.
Thank you, Fantastic Four. Thank you.
Thank you, Fantastic Four.
If there was any doubt that these guys are like the hottest celebrities in the world, then that is surely long gone. Just like the Beatles with Beatlemania, there seems to be a Fantastic Four mania that is sweeping the globe. At the start of that little section we just showed you, you can see a type of soapbox derby replica of the Fantastic car that some kids have made, which is pretty cool. Then we have a section of the public thanking the team for everything that they've done, which I again think kind of points back to some of the stuff being used in the Ted Gilbert Show. But what's really crazy to me is that all these people, adults and kids alike, love the Fantastic Four. So, if some fan theories are true, and the team does leave this version of Earth behind as it's destroyed, how bleak will this trailer look? Just some food for thought, especially with a shot that's coming later. The next little thing I just want to point out is when Johnny grabs a box of cereal. I know what you're thinking. What's so special about 2 boxes of cereal? Well, they're actually time period accurate versions of both Lucky Charms and Kix. But that's not even the most interesting thing. If you look closely to the back of the Lucky Charms box, you can see some neat artwork. It's hard to completely tell here, but it looks like this is a nod to the famous Jack Kirby comic rendition of the Human Torch. This was pretty much confirmed when some promo art dropped on 4/4 Day that was a total homage to that design. Take a look. You can even see Jack Kirby's signature scorch lines on it too, which is a really lovely touch.
You late?
I just said that.
Are you pregnant?
What?
And there it is, folks. The big reveal. I know everybody and their dog predicted it, but it's still huge. Franklin Richards has the potential to be one of the biggest characters in all the MCU, so I can understand why people have been so hyped about it. But then, things start hitting the fan. Remember way back when I said that it was something else causing the atmospheric disturbances? Well, in the comics, it was the Silver Surfer, and it looks like in the film, it is too. Well, technically, this is Shalabal, the love interest of the Silver Surfer, but she's far more than that. She's also a herald of Galactus, which means a portion of his cosmic energy is fused into her, which is both insane and very cool. We hear her say, "Are you the protectors of this world?" Which instantly makes me think of what Matt Shackman said in an interview. That the Fantastic Four are the only protectors of Earth, and there's no other superheroes. No Avengers or anything like that. We also hear Shalabal say, "This planet is now marked for death," which is likely to be her way of heralding the appearance of Galactus. Also, there are some nice little Easter eggs in here, like if you look at the very bottom right, you can see a movie theater playing Attack of the Fun Guy, which has to be a nod to Pedro Pascal's hit show, The Last of Us. I'm not going to go into that though, I don't want to give you any spoilers. And slightly to the left of it, we can see a Westview appliance television store. I knew Matt Shackman wouldn't miss a chance to get a WandaVision reference in here somewhere. I wonder if this universe's version of Westview is just a TV store though. So many questions, so little answers. We see Johnny blast off into space to confront Shalabal, but as fire needs oxygen to burn, he is quickly extinguished. But it's what Reed is talking about over the scene which is interesting. He says, "I stretched the bounds of space, and they heard." It's such a great line because it really could mean anything. I mean, we know in the comics that Reed creates the bridge, which is a multiverse connecting pathway. So is that what he's been trying to make? And because Galactus is a devourer of worlds, another universe for him to wade through is exactly what he wants? There's also this new diagram that we see positioned behind Reed when he talks to Sue. There's no real guess as to what it could be. It genuinely could be anything. Heck, maybe Johnny went in and drew it. But I wonder if this is the device he's trying to build to combat the threat that Earth might be facing. Is it an early prototype of the bridge? Who knows? But I think there could be something important in that diagram. That shot of the underground bunker suggests that the team knows that the Earth is in imminent danger, but they might have enough time to try and get a few people safe. The fact that there is so much space under New York City, however, suggests to me that we might at some point see an appearance from the Mole Man. Okay, maybe I'm giving myself too much credit. We know that Paul Walter Hauser has been signed to play him, which makes sense. Mole Man was actually the first ever villain the team ever fought in the comics. When we were covering the February teaser trailer, I mentioned the best guess about who John Malkovich might be playing could be Red Ghost, and I still believe that. But maybe we see the team take down a few supervillains, see them get into their stride before this big Earth-ending event takes place. So that's kind of a long-winded way of me saying that I think the bunker shot takes place in the Mole Man's subterranean system after he's been defeated. We know that place exists thanks to a souvenir given to fans at the San Diego Comic-Con, which shows a detailed map of their version of Manhattan. A few reports about this scene and a few interviews from the cast and crew call that bunker shot the team's all-is-lost moment. If you look to the top right also, you can just about make out some blue jumpsuits, so the team is also in the bunker. This is one of the moments across both trailers so far that has so much riding on it. I can't wait to see how the scene plays out. After the planet's power seemingly shuts down, we get a shot of the team walking towards a team of worried reporters in what looks like the Future Foundation. A foundation which was created by Reed as a dedicated service to helping humanity. Basically, all the brightest and best minds come together in one effort. And in the 616, that usually includes heroes. Most notable ones being Spider-Man, She-Hulk, and Ant-Man. Sadly though, we know these guys are the only heroes on Earth, so it's probably just really smart normies that make up the Future Foundation team. Notice Reed, Ben, and Johnny are suited and booted, but Sue isn't. To me, that screams of her either being heavily pregnant by this point in the film, or that maybe Franklin has already been born, and she's got him in her arms here. Either way, the Fantastic Four becomes a terrific trio for a little while. We then see Reed sitting at a blue desk. Entertainment Weekly released an article on the upcoming film which says that the Baxter Building has color-coded rooms. Red for research, with tables full of inventions, yellow for thinking, where Reed keeps his chalkboard, and blue for monitoring, complete with sophisticated screens and communication equipment. We can see all three rooms in this shot, blue in the foreground, yellow in the midground, and red in the background. So in this shot, they're monitoring or communicating something or someone. I wonder if they're keeping tabs on Ta-2, Galactus' spaceship. Whatever they're monitoring, though, is kinda watered down by the next shot of the trailer. The team's Marvel 1 rocket watching an Earth-like planet being destroyed. I say Earth-like because would Marvel really show us such a big plot point in a trailer? You guys know I think, and a lot of fans think, that this Earth or even the universe will be destroyed. But I do wonder if this shot could be a bait and switch. Maybe Sue is off duty and in the midst of labor and she nods off and dreams that this happens. You know, something like that. What I do know is, after seeing how much the rest of humanity loved them, the team leaving the planet to die is gonna be one hell of a sucker punch. So for this section of the trailer, we pretty much have it confirmed that Franklin is born. Because why else would two parents be up in the middle of the night standing over a crib? But it seems like this scene is also really important for the look that Reed gives to the baby mobile. Is there an answer in the solar system to fight back against the oncoming storm of Galactus? He looks at Jupiter, which has an enormous amount of gravity. Maybe he might use that to kickstart his bridge project. We then see a repeat shot from the teaser trailer that shows Galactus' arrival. And then we see Sue back in her suit, so either she's ready to fight or she's been forced into returning. What I will say about Galactus, though, is the fact that he isn't just straight up destroyed Earth, and instead shrunk down to a smaller size suggests there's something that he wants on the planet. That could be the team luring him in, maybe Reed's got some super cool brain-splitting device up his sleeve, or Galactus might be on the hunt for Franklin. There's another pretty cool Easter egg in the shot, too, if you look in the background right here. There's a store called Timely Comics, which is also the name of the comic book company that produced the first Fantastic Four comic. Funny thing is, it's had a few new names through the years. After Timely Comics, it was called Atlas, then it was renamed to Marvel Comics. How cool is that? Shalabal then appears on our screens again, and this is another really interesting shot. She seems to be in some futuristic forgery or the kind of bowels of some big ship. If I was to guess, maybe this is a shot from inside Galactus' ship. And maybe we see the origin of Shalabal being infused with Galactus' power cosmic, where she becomes a herald. So I imagine this is taken just before she sets off to Earth. Then we see the train or monorail track from the teaser trailer going up in flames, so I guess that's how the track breaks down. Looks like the theory of them stopping on an oncoming train might be right. Now from this shot here, it looks like whatever happens with the train or the monorail, it takes place during the filming of the Ted Gilbert show. So my thinking is we get them sitting down with Ted, we get the, oh wow, these guys are great kind of spiel from him, and then bang, we're straight into the action to start the movie. Of all the members of the team, we've probably seen Reed's powers the least, and we finally get a chance to see them here. This shot has also gotten some heavy criticism from fans online due to the CGI of the stretch, but I can't lie, I genuinely really think it looks good. That being said, there's something a little more menacing in the shot that you may not have noticed the first time around. Believe it or not, those are Galactus' legs. This is technically the first time we see him tackle the team. So we do know that there is some sort of battle between them, and then we get to see a little more with the trailer's final sting. We've seen his legs, now we get to see his feet. Now don't shoot the messenger, but I'm told that this is Quentin Tarantino's favorite shot of the movie. Genuinely, this is one of the most interesting shots in the whole trailer for me. So seeing that scene would have me believe, even more than I did before, that Galactus is on the hunt for Franklin. There's the possibility that instead of just consuming his power, he may also try and harness it to undo the big crunch that destroyed his iteration, the 6th iteration of the universe. I mentioned earlier that he gestated inside of a cosmic egg. Well, that egg protected him from the destruction of his universe. So it does add up that he would want to go back. Okay, so that's it for 2 trailers, but there are a few more things that I want to talk about. The first being Doom, or Dr. Doom if you want to be formal. Doom is a big part of the Fantastic Four franchise, and we know that he's the next MCU big bad. So I wonder, will this film introduce him in some way? Maybe even in the end credits.
I don't know.
Canonically, we know that Reed and Sue have another kid in Valeria, and Doom plays a big part in her birth. Basically, during the labor there were some heavy complications, and Reed's mastery of science wasn't enough. So instead he turned to Doom to use his skilled sorcery to deliver Valeria and save Sue. So from that, I imagine that the Fantastic Four escape back to the mainline MCU in time for Doomsday. But obviously, the hows and the whys aren't really fully established. But there is this to think about. That's Reed being snapped like gum. So why am I telling you this? Well, there's an alternate version of Reed Richards known as the Maker, an evil incarnation that became twisted after Doom tried killing him, as we've just seen. Then after Doomsday, the next big MCU film is Secret Wars. In the Secret Wars comics, the Maker appears. Now, this is only speculation, a little bit of my own theory sprinkled in, but I wonder if we're going to eventually see this alternate Reed being attacked and nearly killed by Doom, only to return in Secret Wars as the Maker. You can call me crazy, but stranger things have happened. Okay, so that is everything that you need to know before you watch Fantastic Four: The First Steps. I feel pretty confident that was everything, but I gotta ask, do you think I missed anything? What is the craziest theory that you've heard? Do you have any crazy theories that you want to share? Let me know down below. But for now, I will catch you next time. See ya!